Alrighty. Well, hello everyone. I hope you are having a lovely evening. Thank you for coming back and actually joining us for yet again another webinar of our series. We are presenting today 10 steps to planning a council-wide event. So we're hopefully able to help you guys out with planning events with your council tonight. Now, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Caitlin Bishop. I am from Chief Corn Planter Council, and I am currently the 2022-2023 National Venturing Officers Association Vice President of Program. I'm here tonight with my assistant and guest speaker, Jamie Schnassi, which is the Vice President of Administration. And that's enough for me, and let's get started. So the steps that we're about to break down for you guys are not just specifically for council-wide events. They can actually be implemented into larger crews and larger like crew events if you so desire. It's like you don't necessarily have to implement these with your council. You can do pretty much whatever. Those are just nice basic steps to help break down everything and make the process a little more easier to understand. So don't worry, it's very universal. And we'll start from step one. So step one deals with defining the specifics. So like that's the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why. That way so you can get a nice understanding of where to start with your planning process. You can think of those like starter questions, if you will, to help with like your thinking from the beginnings, maybe get like an idea of a projective theme. Maybe think of something you want to plan later or what to implement later. Who exactly is your target audience? Where will be the proper place to have your event? Who exactly are we going to try to attract for this event? Is it going to be older youth? Is it going to be younger scouts? What exactly are you going to do with it? Like this is the brainstorming stage. It allows you to be super open-minded and allow you to consider all like fair options. Everything is on the plate. So like nothing has to be super specific. It just helps to give you a broad sense of understanding of where you want to go with your event and hopefully maybe give you some more options to fall back on if something doesn't go the way that it should. Step two deals with defining any and all resources. I say like any in response to the fact of like you need to make sure you have everything under the sun, anything is fair game, that way so you have something to reference and fall back onto and what exactly is there for me to use and what can I use, what can I use, and all of them. So like anything that you can think of, like any and all go hand in hand together. That way so you have something that you can just use in your advantage and allow for the brainstorming process to actually follow through and consider different options in the future. It'll help like elaborate as far as what exactly should be done. So like for instance, if you don't have something to your advantage right now that would benefit you for your theme, maybe consider something else instead. Like everything is on the table. You might have to actually consider like for instance, like what type of staff do we need? Like, do we need people for shooting sports? Do we need people who are certified in climbing? What about the amount of money that's needed and so forth? The location, is there a specific location that has both the things that we want to like host? Because that's also a problem too that people don't necessarily take into consideration. And this is typically the step to where the partnering with the council is probably the most important. Because if you think about it, the council typically has those resources. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but generally they at least have some resource in their back pocket that will allow them to be able to let you use it and figure out how to contact that individual to use it in the future. But like I said, like partnering with a council is not necessarily a requirement. However, it would probably be of best interest to you in either your crew or like a large group of individuals to be able to do what you want to do. So moving forward to step three, this is where the drafting of the budget can comes in. So this portion is actually embedded within the second part, and it's probably one of the most important and kind of the least talked about. I know as far as with drafting the budget, it seems very daunting. It feels like you need like some sort of a financial degree to do it, but I promise you, it's a lot easier than you can even imagine, especially when you have a nice template to be able to just like plug and chug all those numbers and be able to break down everything that you need. So some of the questions in regards to budgeting Maybe to take into consideration, like, are we going to need to do fundraisers ahead of the event? What exactly is the goal to be able to like break even that we don't owe anybody and we're not necessarily profiting from it? Like, how are we going to be able to make ends meet? What about maybe taking the consideration of the cost of the food? What about even the participants fee? How can we make that fair and still not make it too expensive for them, but affordable at the same time? Like, for instance, if the fee is too high, they're less likely to be able to show up and actually participate in your event because there's a very solid chance they're thinking it's not really going to be worth it. And that's not necessarily a good thing. You want people to come to your event. So hopefully with all of these, they'll be able to like make the money portion of everything go super smoothly, and the monetary portion of it will be super easy and hopefully less headache. So my next slide here, I have a sample budget sheet for all of you, and I promise that will be available for you. We will make sure it will be put in like the comments or any places that it may be, that way so you have the availability to be able to use it on your own time. And I know this seems super daunting with all these like little cells and whatnot, but I promise you it's okay. So in the very top here, you actually have what you would input for your own funding as far as like the attendance, how many people you either would like expect to be there or actually would be there, whether maybe it would be early registration or late registration, because I know some organizations do like an early bird fee or people who would pay the full fee even after the early bird time. If you have like maybe a concession as far as like, will you have any like sort of revenue in that aspect? Like maybe you're giving away some trade goods and whatnot. Any other source of income, such as like fundraising, to be able to help you with the funding of all of your activities. And below this blue line here is a whole list of different other expenses for you to be able to take into consideration, which is, perfectly fine. You need to take into consideration of food, like maybe medical supplies, just in case if someone gets hurt, be able to like afford to have the stuff that you need on hand. What about training supplies? So like if you're doing a training event, you need materials in order for those trainings to happen. Maybe if you're like, for instance, promoting your event via like the mail, what about the postage that's involved? Just a whole list of different things you need to maybe take into consideration of how much that's going to be, how much of it are you going to do, and how much is it going to add up in the end. This specific budget sheet has both the projected of what you expect of it going to be, and you can compare it to the actual to see what exactly did, like, how did we do? Did we make out like what we expected? Was it worse than anticipated? And it'll also help coming later, which is probably some of the later steps to help understand how can I improve from this? Just simply looking at the budget. So hopefully this will be of good use to you. I promise it'll be available. Just stay tuned and you'll be able to get it hopefully here very soon. So moving on to step 4 is the idea of considering like plan B. I know I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the term, well, not really the term, but the phrase of when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. That's basically the case here. Anything and everything could go wrong. Like you could potentially have your event get canceled because of weather. You might have to change your location, for example. Or you might not even have enough people to be able to put on your event. Some staff might have some medical emergencies or something else that pops up and it might not actually help you in the long run. And that's okay. Things happen. So considering a plan B or an alternative plan is probably in your best interest. You can definitely use your guide to safe scouting, maybe come up with like some risk management plans that way so you can avoid those instances from happening. And the best bet is to actually go through and like consider any and all what ifs that could potentially happen. That way, so you can have this little plan B in your back pocket and be able to use it if you need to. But it's definitely really wise to consider.
Hey everybody, my name is Jamie Schnassi. I am taking over for a second, but I am the NVOA Vice President of Administration this year. And now that we've done all these steps and started thinking through how our council event is going to work, it is time to figure out how we're going to make that happen. And that starts with creating a crew or a staff for the event. And there are a few things you want to take into consideration when you're doing this part. This should be done in advance. You don't want to let your staff know a week out that they're going to have to show up and perform all these duties. So have your areas of expertise defined. You want to know what program areas you need staffed, what certifications your staff need to run those areas, and how you can best prepare your staff. So if you have a waterfront, for example, at your event, you're going to need a director and lifeguards. If you have shooting sports, you'll need range safety officers and shooting sports staff. These might not always be easy to find, so reaching out to camp staff or other nearby councils is a great way to find certified staff, as well as do a little bit of networking, which is always good. And then make sure you know when your staff is available and be clear in their time commitment and what you're expecting of them. So if you need staff to run a rope course, make sure you let the venturers running that station know exactly when and where to be and what will be expected of them, because this is crucial for staff.
So continuing on here, as far as with step 6, this is the time where you actually have to consider consolidating everything, putting it all together. This is where everything has to be organized and streamlined, and all of your brainstorming ideas have to come together in one go. So like now you have all these options, you have to weigh like the pluses and minuses with everything and come up with the best plan that you want for a specific theme or for the specific objective that you're trying to go about with your event. So like committing to the plan will help you like with streamlining your thoughts, keep everything in one spot. So like maybe consider like putting it all in one document, making it easier to like find and reference even for your team. So like finding your crew and allowing them to know what exactly is happening and how are we going to do it. This will also be easier as far as making sure things are not lost and forgotten and people know exactly what's expected of them. And hopefully things won't be as scatterbrained as everything tends to progress.
So sorry, Caitlin, maybe the most important step, 7. So promote, and then promote again. And this is something that you can be doing throughout steps 1 through 6 as well. But if you save it for step 7 and you're planning far enough in advance, you should have almost a full event ready by this time. So you have exactly what you're going to do and you can promote these activities. So you've committed to having shooting sports, you can promote that now. But make your ideas known, make your awesome event, put it out there to the council, to nearby councils, other venturers. But it's going to be hard to get people to your event if you don't promote. And a good way to start that process is deciding who your audience is. Is it young adults? Is it prospective venturers? Is it venturers in the program already? Cub Scouts, Scouts BSA, Sea Scouts even. So that's a good place to start. And then once you know who your audience is, you can start finding mediums to promote your event in, like Facebook, Instagram, emails, phone calls, in-person events. People always like to see the venturer wearing the green shirt, getting up in front of everybody and talking about the cool weekend they're going to have at camp. But when you're doing these promotions, make sure you're mindful of the BSA branding guidelines. That's that yellow box there. You could see the Facebook comments, or you can look on the venturing website. But promotion is absolutely critical for having a successful event, for the health of your event going forwards.
Alrighty. Now here comes the fun part. Now everything gets real. Now you get to actually see how everything goes the way you wanted it to go. And I can't necessarily say like it's the best of the fun parts, if you will, because you still have to intermingle and get to know people. See how things are going. You still have to keep in mind it's like, yes, this is your event, so that still technically means it's your responsibility. Take into consideration is like, are things moving the way that they should? Is there something in the schedule that has to be changed? Like, is everything going on time? Like, is there something that we can't do that last minute, keeping in mind of your backup plan that doesn't necessarily go as how it's supposed to? Um, Try to mingle in with the participants, seeing how they're doing. Are they enjoying everything? Like, are they getting to know you? Because in the end, that might actually benefit you. Because if they know you as a person, they'd be more apt to actually visiting your events in the future, especially if they know that they're good. Okay, now here's the actual fun part. Like, you actually get to have fun. Like, like I said, it kind of goes hand in hand with step 8, but like having fun, honestly, in my opinion, is probably one of the best parts. Like you did everything, you did the project planning, enjoy it. Because in the end, not only is it like something that you want to do, but you're also like benefiting what the other people want to do. You're keeping their interests in mind. So why not just do activities together with your people? And better yet, figure out how they found out about your event. Was it through social media? Was it through in the mail? Was it like through word of mouth? Like, how did they know about it? And maybe if you get to figure out what exactly happened, you might be able to use it again in the future because it's beneficial to you. So why not? And then lastly, step 10. When you get to sit down, debrief with your team, figure out how everything went down, and review everything. I personally like the start, stop, and continue method when understanding like what went well, what didn't go well, what can be improved for next time. It's very similar to the thorns and roses, like thorns, buds, and roses that most people use, which is perfectly fine, same concept, just different words, totally okay. Um, but this is where the feedback that you get is what could be used in the future. It's very universal. You can use it for not just this type of event, you can use it for different types. Like for instance, if you want to focus more on your promotion and understanding how to like benefit and change and broaden your means of promotion to reach out to more people. Like for instance, if next time you want to reach out to a different group of people besides the one you already reach out to, maybe take into consideration when you're sitting down and debriefing um, what exactly of your event went the way that you wanted to. Like all these different areas you want to just understand, debrief, and get a good concept of what exactly happened, and hopefully be able to change in the future for next time. Personally, my favorite method with this is either like paper polls, especially during the event, like towards the end of your event, have these polls printed ahead of time. Or maybe if you really want to be tech savvy, make a QR code for a Google form and have them placed on the tables where most of the people are sitting, or at least where the gathering place might be. Have them scan it, fill it out, and keep it anonymous. Make sure they don't have any means to put their name on it, whether it be type it in, writing it, whatsoever, because it's fair that way. That way, so it's like, okay, this is just honest feedback. You don't know where it's coming from other than it's just from your participants, and that's pretty much all you need. But other forms and surveys and polls work just as great too. It all depends on what you want and how exactly you want your feedback to go about.
All right, so I have a few more bullet points, little pieces of advice for everybody in their council event planning. But for all of these to be successful, you have to be having fun. And that's absolutely critical here. So there's a quote I'm always reminded of when I'm doing program things for venturing. It's from the movie The Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And I think that's kind of perfect. If you have something awesome going on, then people are going to want to be a part of it on staff, as participants, on both sides. So the first thing is finding creative ways to get people interested in your event. I've done social media accounts dedicated to an event, and that's fun. You can have a lot of fun making graphics or making funny little videos for that. And I think youth particularly like that, but the adults have fun with that too. We had a snow themed event a couple of years ago, and to promote it, we bought a Yeti costume and had one of our staff wear it around, and we went to crew meetings and delivered the presentation for the event wearing a Yeti costume, which was a lot of fun and people liked it. And then we incorporated that into the event. So they had to like find the Yeti or something, which is a good way. Involving competition will bring people together and motivate them. So maybe which crew can build the tallest tower, like complete the relay race first or something like that. Another thing that I like to do when planning an event, especially for older youth, is to put some social time into your events. I think that's oftentimes left out of camporees and things like that. But participants want to come back and see the people they met last year. And you don't always get to meet people from other crews. So that's a cool opportunity to do something like that at a council level event. A good venue for that could be like a Cracker Barrel in the evenings. You have snacks for everybody. They get to hang out. You can have music or any kind of other entertainment. And then involving other 14 and up or prospective venturers in this event, inviting them kind of as a recruiting strategy is a really smart move, because if you have social time and everybody's just hanging out, you could start talking to all these scouts about venturing and how awesome it is, all the things that you get to do in the program and what you love about it. Another awesome strategy is to host joint events with other programs or councils or other organizations. So maybe your council has strong shooting sports and another council has strong, cope and climbing. If you guys come together and do an annual event, you can have both things, and that's better for everybody. And it's also easier to get staff. And then also other programs. I've seen venturing events where they have, the Sea Scouts and exploring, the OA, they all come to, which is fun. But you can also involve outside organizations and vendors, like having maybe the Coast Guard come. I saw a Coast Guard dog at a venturing event, and it was totally mind blowing, but it was super cool. And I think a lot of people came back to the event the next year because they saw how awesome it was that year. And then using pictures and details from your event to promote the next year. So this is kind of like step 10 and step 7 at the same time. But if you're reflecting on what went well, you can use those things to promote and make next year even better. So those are just a couple things to keep in mind. But I would say the overarching theme, have fun. If you build it, they will come.
Here we go. So this slide is actually just the whole like resource slide of everything that we've mentioned, things that you can use in the future. There's actually this really nice how-to guide for planning venturing events that the person who before me, love you, Freedom Tansley, made this guide. And this is what this presentation was actually built around. So I give credit to him for this. It's actually on the venturing website. It's on the scouting website as well. Really nice job. All of these resources will actually be available to you either within the Facebook comments or places where you can access it. That way, so you'll be able to use it for your events with your councils or even with your own crews in the future. So hopefully these will be available for you, and I really hope they will be of good interest and hopefully benefit you all in the future. So I actually just give a nice like thank you for individuals coming out and just like listening in on this, taking your time out of your day to listen from two individuals' point of views on how we've gone through with our events that we've planned, whether with our crews or have seen other individuals planned with even with their councils. A big thank you to Jamie for being able to sit with me and get this out here and get it recorded. And that was so you guys have this at your own discretion. I would also like to thank Ryan for helping me with the recordings, making sure everything is up in the way that it should. And I thank you for your time and everything that you've done. And lastly, and certainly not least, thank you to my advisor, Liz Finley, for helping me plan all of this and getting everything approved the way that it's supposed to. So if any of you have any questions or there's something that you just don't understand or just would like to look into furtherly, you can go to the nationalventuring.president@gmail.com to hopefully be able to answer your questions. Anything that you may have in regards to project planning, event planning, and so forth, we'd be gladly to be able to help you with that. But thank you guys, and I appreciate all of your guys' time and your willingness tonight. Thank you.